And we are live.
Everybody, welcome to the Gathering Paracast. My name is Heidi.
And I'm Stephanie. And welcome to the Gales of November. Really. So, how are you, Heidi?
Good. How about yourself?
Good. So, we're going to talk about the Edmund Fitzgerald tonight, which has long been, the Great Lakes and Lake Superior specifically, we've talked about so many times on when we had the radio show. And it's just such a cool, fascinating, there's just so many stories, right? And the Edmund Fitzgerald, of course, is probably the biggest one. I mean, it was a huge ship, went down, 29 souls were lost. We still don't know what happened to it. And this year is the 50th anniversary. So she went down 50 years ago this past Monday, which is just crazy. And we still don't know exactly what happened.
Right. There's a lot of good educated guesses at this point, but it's hard because I was looking up some facts about it, and it's in 530 feet of water.
Yeah.
Where it's resting at the bottom of Lake Superior. So it's very hard to get to. It's pitch dark, very, very cold.
Very cold.
And, you can only get there with ROVs and different kinds of submersibles that, aren't just, there's not just a plenty of those running around that people can use. So, and it's a protected site now because it's considered a graveyard. So there's a lot that isn't happening to figure out what's going on there, which makes sense because you want to be respectful of the people that lost their lives there. So, but there's some good educated guesses, it looks like, from just what I've been seeing, doing some research on this.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And when you talk about Lake Superior, and you and I have been so fascinated with the Great Lakes, but Lake Superior specifically, it's big, she's deep, she's cold. People pop up that have died hundreds of years ago and they look like they just passed away yesterday, which was the basis for Wendy Webb's first book that I ever read, which was The Daughters of the Lake, And it's true, it happens. So all these people are down there and they look like you and I, right? Because it's so cold, so dark. Jean-Luc Cousteau was one of the first ones down there after the Edmund Fitzgerald sank. And I saw a clip of him it was like 20 years later. And he said, we went down there and it was really deep, really cold. It's complete and total darkness. And frankly, it's really spooky. And I thought that was a phenomenal thing for him to say, because I think I would be pretty creeped out,
Yeah, I would think that I don't know. I would not do it. I would not go below the surface of the water like that, because that would be really hard for me to do. But I would expect that anybody going down at some point would have some kind of weird, like, claustrophobia. You don't know which way is up. Like, that would be really disorienting, I think. I haven't done it, so I would just assuming.
Right. But and the pressure, the pressure is so much down there. Like, one of them said they were, if one of their cameras were outside of the submersible, it would have exploded, because the pressure is just so intense down there. They also said that it's so well preserved because it's a lake. So there's no salt to corrode it. There's no sea life to eat into it. She's perfect. She's like she was that day that she went down, which is so totally fascinating, isn't it? It's like just spooky as heck.
And I've seen, you can look up, there are pictures of it, that have been taken down there. And it looks, I'm sure some of them aren't that old, the pictures, or some of them are older, but it looks good because it's in a very cold, well-preserved area that, again, there's not that salt that's going to eat away at it. And I don't know, it's really, it's wild. I was looking up because Lake Superior, it's hard to wrap your mind around, like, how big is it, right? And so I was looking up some facts around Lake Superior, and it's the largest freshwater lake in the world by surface area.
Yep.
and contains 10% of the world's fresh water, covers an area of 31,700 miles, and its average depth is 483 feet, and its deepest point reaches 1,332 feet.
Oh my God. I mean, can you even imagine?
That's wild. And get this, all the water from the other Great Lakes, so there's 5 Great Lakes, the other 4 plus 3 extra Lake Eries can be held by Lake Superior.
That's how isn't that crazy?
The other 4 lakes.
She's big. And she, you know, as we've often heard living in Minnesota, if you go anywhere near Lake Superior, the minute you're there, you can tell she's different. You know, the natives have called her Gitchigumi, which means big lake, but it also means big spirit. And they all said that Lake Superior was a spirit. And I truly believe it. And, you know, when we were in Bayfield last year, even people there talked about that. Remember, we met that swimmer and I don't know if you talked to her, but she was doing a swimming thing. And she said, oh, yeah, you got to really be careful about her because like the boat, you can go out and it can be beautiful weather. And then all of a sudden, you know, and she just changes her mood, you know? And I do believe that. I think you really got to watch it. You have to respect her for sure. You know, if you're going to go out on her, you know? Very beautiful.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say she's very beautiful. All, you know, every part of Lake Superior that I've seen is gorgeous to the max, you know.
Oh, it's a beautiful lake. It almost has that like ocean or sea effect, you know, when you're standing on the shore in some areas, because there's some places where you can't see the other side.
You can't.
No. So it has that idea like you're standing on the ocean or on a large sea, you know, but it's fresh water.
Yeah. Well, even when we were in Bayfield last year, I said Bayfield reminded me of Friday Harbor in San Juan Island, and except there were no whales and the water wasn't salty. You know what I mean? But you couldn't see, you know, once if you could see past the Apostle Islands, it was like just ocean, you know? So she's very big and dangerous, but, you know, also at the same time, wow, what a cool thing. She's just so big. And 1,000 feet. Wow. I didn't read that one, but that's crazy.
Yeah, 1,300 feet deep is the deepest part of the lake.
Yeah. And you know what I read that, you know, the Ojibwa people used to pray to her for safe passage, of course, across the water, you know? So yeah, just insane things.
Well, and I was also reading just about shipwrecks in the Great Lakes, and there are an estimated 10,000 shipwrecks in the Great Lakes. Only about 350 of them, they're guessing around 350 because there's probably a lot of undocumented wrecks, but 350 located in Lake Superior.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that? And the Fitz they call her the Fitz. She was the biggest one, you know, and at the time, you know, they called her the queen. She was the queen because she was the biggest one they had, and luxurious, you know, you could cruise Lake Superior on this working iron boat. And they said the accommodations were first class. They had first class food, all the crew and the captain too. It was fabulous to get on that boat because they were so well taken care of and they had gourmet food, and you know, it was just the coolest thing ever. So it was quite sad. But you know, the mysterious thing is that there was another boat, and we talked about this before the show, but there was another boat called the Arthur Anderson that was trailing her. They both left at the same time. The captains were talking with each other, and it turned out that Captain McSorley, who was the captain of the Edmund Fitzgerald, had a feeling that they should go the more northern route, which added time to the route, but he felt it would be safer. And so that's what they did. And, you know, what's interesting is that, you know, he had contacted the Arthur Anderson and said, oh, we have trouble. You know, I don't know exactly what was said, but that's the context. And then at like 7:10 p.m., he said, we're holding our own. And then 12 minutes later, the Edmund Fitzgerald was nowhere to be seen. She was sunk, you know? So it's amazing that a big ship full of 26,000 tons of iron ore could go down that fast, you know?
Well, and they had said in the transcript that they were taking on water. That's one of the things that was said. How much they didn't say, but they didn't send out a distress signal.
No.
So, it's, I'm guessing thought they could get to a safe part of the lake in the storm, which clearly didn't happen.
Yep. Well, and they said if she could have just went 15 more miles, they would have been in past Whitefish Point. So then they would have been in safety. So yeah, I think fascinating stuff. But I sure would really like to know what happened to her. I think the spirit decided, well, okay, it's time for another one to go, and let's take this one.
I don't know about that. I think, well, because, and to answer Cryptovania TV's question, was it a freak storm? Yes, it was. It was not an expected storm, and it was really strong for that early in the year. So, clearly they would have made adjustments if they would have known that that kind of a storm was coming in. Right. So it was, they say it was a freak storm, and it came out of nowhere. And 35-foot waves. Yeah. The winds had to be incredible to make those kind of waves. So, navigation must have been tough. Plus, you're weighed down with that much ore iron. It's not like you're going to be able to twist and turn and get to where you need to go in a, quick second, because you're a slow moving vessel with that size and nothing in it. So
I think it would have been terrifying, to be quite honest. Terrifying. The other thing they said that I read somewhere is that the Great Lakes, Superior especially, but all of them, are more dangerous than the oceans for these ships to sail on, because it has something to do with the salinity of the water in the oceans tamps it down just a tidge. So in a storm, it probably wouldn't be quite as harsh and quite as strong, the water. But in the Great Lakes, there's no salt. So that water is hard, and it makes like hard peaks, and it's just really tough to navigate through that. They say a lot of captains say they would never captain on the Great Lakes, which isn't that an interesting thing? I found that quite interesting. But yeah, I don't know. It's just a mystery for sure. I remember when it went down, and it was, I think everybody in Minnesota was shocked. It was like, what is going on? It was all over the news, all over the local news, all over the national news. Crazy, and I was just a kid,
Well, I was around, but I wasn't aware of that when it happened.
Yeah.
I was only 3.
Yeah. No, I do. And then I remember Gordon Lightfoot wrote the song, The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, which is a phenomenal song. And he wrote it based on what they knew at that time, which wasn't as much as they know now. And so the lyrics, he took some liberties, of course, to fill it in and make it a story. But in the early 2000s, he started singing a couple of verses, what really happened. And he said, the original lyrics stand, but I will now sing it with what I know now, which is very interesting, I thought, because he wanted to be accurate. Great song. I remember seeing him live in the late 1970s. One of my friends, her mom was just crazy about him. And so we all went along, it was fun. He was at the Northrop Auditorium at the U of M, and phenomenal. He was great. The show was great. He was just a fantastic entertainer, and I've always remembered that. And I also wanted to go see him one more time, and I never did get to, but because he passed away a few years back, I think. But yeah, it's just a mystery. And I saw some footage of the ship from the submarines that went down, and some people who were on these submarines, and they all had differing ideas and differing, points of view. And, the Canadian they found bodies, they saw bodies. And so then the Canadian government quickly shut it down and said, this is a gravesite now. But, honestly, and, they said in respect of the families, they won't allow any more discovery. at the same time, if, like I said, if I were one of those families, I would want to know really what happened, because there's so many points of view. Could have been this, could have been that. Yes, she broke in half, but why? Why? That's the big question, So
There's a couple
anyway,
of questions in the chat room. One is, what is it? Copper ore? No, it was iron ore that was gold. And then let's see here. The last one says, does it sink faster because of no salt? Maybe. And I did just look it up because I wasn't sure. And it said a boat, looked it up on Google. So a boat will sink faster in fresh water because it's less dense than salt water, meaning it provides less buoyancy.
Yeah.
And saltwater's higher density allows objects to float higher, while the lower density of fresh water causes boats to float lower in the water, therefore be more vulnerable to sinking if it takes on water. So it's already lower in the water because it's fresh water. And then you have issues of some kind. You have this massive storm loaded down with iron ore. And that's just, it's like the movie Perfect Storm, right? You've got all these things lining up that are creating this unfortunate situation that is no win for this ship.
Yep. Lake Superior just, was having a day.
Think about the energy that Lake Superior has anyway, just the energy of this body of water, this nature energy, this spirit energy, and then all of the shipwrecks with all of the people that have died and that are still there in the water, adding to that energy, and all the animals that are there. I mean, it's flooded with wildlife. There's so much wildlife and migration wildlife that goes through there. So, I mean, just so powerful in this energy and definitely worthy of our respect. I mean, anytime I'm at Lake Superior, which I get there quite often throughout the year, we're down here in the cities, we're like 2.5 hours away from Duluth, which would be the first part of where we can hook up with Lake Superior here in Minnesota from the south side. So, but it's definitely, it commands your attention, and it's definitely worthy of respect when you go to just, pay honor to not only the lake, but the people that use the lake for their livelihoods, for the people who have lost their lives there. I mean, the energy is definitely, you can feel it. You can feel a shift.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And she's so different than the other Great Lakes, not just because she's so big, but I've pretty much been to every one of the Great Lakes. And, the song is pretty accurate, because, it talks about Lake Huron rolls, and it does, it's not half as deep as Lake Superior. And it does kind of just, roll along. Lake Michigan is just kind of, I think Lake Michigan is pretty shallow, and it's very calm when I've been there anyway. I mean, I'm sure it can have storms, but it's not like Lake Superior or even Lake Huron. And then Lake Erie and Lake Ontario are totally different, So yeah, Lake Superior, she's the one. She's the tempest. I'm telling you. She's fascinating. I love to go up there and get the energy, But
that's interesting, because I was looking up some stuff, because like I said, when you go to Lake Superior, it's just different. It's just this lake that you can feel this energy. And so I've also been to Loch Ness in Scotland, and that's another lake that when I have stood on its shores, it's like it moves me in a way that you can't explain it. It's an energy thing. And so I looked up, I'm like, gosh, I can't remember how deep Loch Ness is. And so I looked it up, and it has a maximum depth of 755 feet. And I thought, oh, well, that's a little over half of what the maximum depth of Lake Superior is. And then they showed a picture, and there's this picture of the Loch Ness, and it's where it's deepest, and an image of the Golden Gate Bridge in Loch Ness. The whole thing fits down into Loch Ness height-wise. That shows you how deep Lake Superior is, because you could probably stack 1.5 or 1 3/4 Golden Gate bridges in Lake Superior at its deepest point, and have it come to the surface.
Mm-hmm.
Like how wild is that, just to think about? That's so deep. Like, and think of what all is in there that hasn't been reported. And when we did a show, I don't know, was it last year or the year before? I think it was Lake Michigan that we were doing no, it wasn't Lake Michigan. Where they found those ruins, right?
Yeah.
And so you think of, how this, the lake must, over the what do they say, that there's 5 recorded extinctions on our planet.
Yes.
And 5, maybe 7. Anyway, so you think of what other, beings were here, what else happened with this lake? Was it a lake? Was it only after the ice age? What else is going on? I mean, so you have to wonder, like, the evolution of this lake, what all has happened with it since, the birth of this continent, the birth of the planet. Like, there's got to be more that we just have no idea.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And when those ruins were like, the ones in England, Stonehenge, right? They were kind of like in a circle, remember?
Yeah.
But then there was something else too I think that really was in Lake Michigan. But then there was something else that they found, kind of the same thing, up in the Huron Superior Range. I can't remember exactly where it was, but right up. We should do another show on that because maybe they have more information now. That was a few years ago. And fascinating stuff. Absolutely fascinating. And they found different things down there. And I kind of don't think it was in Superior, because Superior is so deep. It was in one of the shallower lakes.
No, it wasn't. I know it wasn't Superior. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's cool stuff. There's so much beneath the water of this world that we've never seen, right? And it's fascinating for sure.
Well, and then it goes back to, I don't know, it was last week or the week before, we were talking about UFOs and how it's a really great place if there's something here with us from somewhere else. It's a great place to hide, because we can't get there very easily. And it's dark all the time. So if we have the capability of getting there through some ROV, it's not going to cover the kind of area that is available at the bottom of a lake like that. So then you start to think even further out, like, is there something else going on, that is a great place to have a base or out, or like however that works. I don't know. So anyway,
I know.
It gets you thinking.
It's just, it's crazy. Yeah. And there is, one of the questions earlier was, is there a Nessie-like creatures in Superior? Yes, there is. And I've heard, I think they call her Prezi, and she's kind of in the southern realm of Lake Superior, kind of towards Michigan from what I've seen. Talk about those too. We should do a show on lake monsters because they have seen one there,
I'm not heard that. Okay.
Oh, look, he says Lake Erie has a Nessie serpent too. Well, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me.
I've heard from the other lakes. I just hadn't heard one from Lake Superior.
Yeah, they call her Prezi or something. Prezi, the lake monster. Kind of up by the Upper Peninsula is where I heard that story. So kind of like more Michigan-y. But yeah, very cool stuff. So yeah, that makes me think we need to do another show or two about lakes, the Great Lakes and the finds there, and maybe lake monsters in general, because there's a lot of lakes that claim to have lake monsters, including our own Lake Pepin, which is just down the road, So yeah, so cool. But I think it's important to, remember the Edmund Fitzgerald and all her crew, 29 guys. And the other thing I read was that the church bell still rings 29 times on the day that she went down for each man, but now they do it one more time for Gordon Lightfoot. How about that? I thought that was a really cool little trivia piece.
Okay. Well, I know that they do a memorial.
Anyway,
they do a memorial at the Split Rock Lighthouse every year too. Yep. They just had that on Monday.
I did catch just a few minutes of it the other day. That's cool. And then they also do it down at the down in Michigan, I believe, down in Detroit. But they have the bell. So they went down and took the bell off the ship and replaced it with something else. So the actual Edmund Fitzgerald bell is at, I don't remember what museum. It's the ship. I suppose it's the ship Sailors Museum or something. And you can go see her, and the Navy actually had a part of that. They went down there and they took it and then they put a different bell there. So I think they ring, that's the bell they ring, So very cool stuff.
I was at a bar in Superior that has a claimed life ring that you throw in, whatever, from Edmund Fitzgerald. It's under glass on the wall. And I'm like, well, okay, where did it come from? Did it come from while it was back and forth? Maybe it was old, it was out of use, we were replacing them, so someone took it. It hadn't sunk yet, or did it float up to the top after the wreck? Like, nobody seems to know. But it's under glass there, so nobody messes with it or steals it. I mean, it's like mounted to the wall and surrounded by.
I would like to touch it. But yes, you can't.
That's why they do that for people like you.
I know. You gotta touch it to see what energy you can get out of it, But yeah, so ode to the Edmund Fitzgerald and all of her crew, and wow, 50 years ago, and they're still down there. We still don't really know what happened. So I guess it will forever remain a mystery. And, only the spirit of the lake knows for sure what happened. Let's just leave it at that. That's kind of a cool way to end it. So do you have anything else about this, or?
No, I think we covered all of it. It was just a tragedy, and it just adds to the mystery of the lake and the energy of the lake, and all of the lake energy, the beings that are forever trapped there. I mean, it's just really, really powerful.
It is for sure, and mysterious and scary and spooky all at the same time, So, well, with that, I think it's a wrap. So thank you all for watching our little ode to the Edmund Fitzgerald. I think it's been really fun. And, we have, before we were on video, we used to talk about the Edmund Fitzgerald. I think once a year, I think probably about this time, we always had a show about it, because it's just a thing to do, I think, So yeah, so thank you for watching, everyone. And if there are any troops watching tonight, thank you for your service, and please be safe.
And thanks everybody in the chat room. Quite a few folks in there joining us. We're loving having you with us. Yes. And wherever you are out there listening to us, thank you so much. And go to our YouTube page and subscribe. We'd love to have you as a subscriber. And thank you to Jason, who always puts cool stuff together for our show and is really helping us pull this whole thing together. Encrypted Radio TV for hosting us. We are so grateful. Absolutely.
Working overtime. It's really fun to see all these things come out. So thank you, Jason. Thank you all. We'll see you next week.